Let's also talk about like what self-care isn't as well, because there's also this huge wave of like self-care is routine, meditation, because a lot of people would take, oh, you're quiet, that means you're mad. No, that's not true.
That's
like,
not true.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Carmela.
And this is Mirtle.
And you're tuning into
the Maarte Life
Podcast, where we basically talk about achieving our goals, raising our standards, self-care, and self-improvement.
Yes, being confident.
Yeah, and being confident
you.
And just killing it.
Yeah, killing it. I love it. Killing it.
Today, I kind of want to talk to you, Mirtle, about basically how you actually do self-care for yourself, especially during like a time like, during COVID times where I think self-care is so important.
It is very important now because we are stressed.
Yes, it is so stressed. And like, now more than ever, have you been seeing like so many like, I guess, content or advertisements about mental health, mental health care, personal health care. So I kind of wanted to like talk a little bit about that today because I think it's such an important topic. And I think it's just so, it's just what we need right now.
Yeah, and people can relate to this, I think.
Yeah.
We could share something.
Definitely. Let's also talk about like what self-care isn't as well, because I feel like because there's also this huge wave of like self-care is routine, meditation, doing a lot of yoga. But you know what? I think it's so cool. Like that doesn't apply. Like for me, that also like some of that doesn't apply to me. Like
it's not like what works for me may not work for you.
It's not a one size fits all.
I agree to that.
Which I think, I think a lot of people, because I mean, we see on Instagram, oh, go do yoga, oh, write in a journal, or, things like that, or walk in nature. But what happens if that's not self-care, for you? So let's talk a little bit about like, how you like to, express your self-care. Like, what do you like to do for yourself?
I am a fan of quiet time.
Okay.
Right. So when I feel super stressed about something or I feel worried about something, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people who doesn't probably understand me would think that you're just being there because you're just being quiet, because you just want to dwell on that negative vibration. But for me, no, I don't really think about like what caused me this emotion, what made me sad. No, it's just me thinking about other things. And I just really wanted to be quiet, and because I'm drained, so I'm trying to regenerate myself. Is that a right word?
That's so good, because a lot of people would take, oh, you're quiet, that means you're mad. No, that's not true.
That's
like
not true.
I like whenever like, for example, like with my partner before, like whenever like we would kind of get into an argument or get into a spat, like I remove myself from the situation and I go somewhere quiet and where I can just be with myself to cool off and just kind of like relax my mind. And I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, you're quiet, you're mad.
No, I think it's because they also related to like the emotions of how the hormones of female are working, you know? And then we call it like topak. You have topak again because you're not tantrums.
What does that mean? Just so for our audience. Tantrums are basically like letting loose.
You're just having tantrums, so that's why you're just being quiet there because you just don't want to talk.
You're making tampo.
No, making tampo, exactly. But it's not all the time like that. Okay, I would not disagree with you if you would tell that. Okay, there's a lot of us who would have that moment, especially during our time of the month. That's important, guys. You need to know that when we're at that time, when it's leak week, we don't mean, do we mean it? Do we mean some of the things that they're saying? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. It's just a lot. It's just like there's a lot of emotions backed up by it. So maybe it's not always logical. And we're not crazy, so I don't agree whenever you call women crazy during their time of the month.
It's something that we can't control that. Yes, we can obviously manage it.
It should be managed. Okay,
yes, I agree.
It should be managed, but these are real.
These are real emotions. These are real people, and other people, have like higher. I mean, like I know other people who just come. Like for me, for example, like when I snap during that week, oh my gosh, like I blank out. Like I have no idea what I'm saying, and then I come back.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important for me, like what you said, to have quality time, to have that quiet time to yourself. It's just so you don't, add to the fire, so you don't hurt the other person or yourself. And I do think that is like, self-care. You do need to have that space, that mental and emotional space.
Correct. What about you?
Me, for me, you know what? I do. A lot of people say, oh yeah, breath work is definitely like a big part of self-care. I take it to the point where I need to go scuba dive, actually, because you know why? Because breath work, when you're doing yoga, there's breath work and this.
Yeah,
but
you focus on your breathing.
Yeah, focus on your breathing and everything. I get it, but like, I like it. I like taking it to that next level. Like, give me a scuba tank and put me in the ocean, because that's all you're doing. You're just breathing. There's no one else there. There's no one around you. Yes, you have your dive master with you and maybe a group, but really it's just you and your tank, and you just have to focus on your breath, because if you hold your breath, you'll die because of like nitrogen overload, right? Yeah. So I take it to that point where it's like, people think scuba diving is a relaxing sport. Is it? Really?
Well, it helps you. So it helps you. And then it's also relaxing because you can see this wonderful creation.
Yeah, the other world, the underwater world and everything. Yeah. So I do find that very therapeutic for me. Yeah. I find a lot of self-care and therapy when I'm scuba diving, because things are slow. And I think that's another thing. It's slow.
Right. Oh yeah. I know. Everything is slow.
Everything's slow underwater. Just like how you move, and you're just focusing on like literally one thing at a time, and and then after that, and then I do feel a lot more rejuvenated when I get out of the water. Like I can actually do things. And I can actually like be productive. What's another way that you like to how you self-care for yourself?
Self-care for me is I've learned this through my partner. When we were in Century Tuna Superbots, right? That's when I really started to be super active, right? Okay. And then I've researched about like where is a proper place for me to be able to do yoga, and we had a lot of trainings. We did have a lot of yoga classes. So, and then I met my boyfriend now, and he's into yoga. It's really, I'm really happy that he is. That's good. So whenever, let's say he noticed that I feel stressed, and what are you doing today to help yourself? Like, do you even do yoga? So it reminds me that I have to do, even if it's just like a 15-minute yoga. It does help, because I would normally have tantrums when I don't get enough sleep. Oh. Okay, so not tantrums like, but just lash out. But it's totally different like mood when I don't get enough sleep. So I notice, as an alternative, if you are busy and you can't really get that sleep, I do that yoga like 15 minutes and focus on your breathing, and it really helps. It's like power nap. Afterwards. Right. So that helps me do away for the negative vibration. Right. Being moody. Yeah. And it helps me go back to a happy me. Right. It slows everything down. And actually it gives you, when you slow things down, it actually gives you perspective. You know what I mean? Like when I'm scuba diving, like for me, the reason why like when I go scuba diving, it's maybe because I'm not like in a lower mood, and I have to like go to scuba diving to kind of like raise my energy a little bit. But when I'm there, because things are slower, I get to put things in perspective. I get to be like, okay, am I overreacting to the situation? I can calm down a little bit. I can just like, regather my thoughts. Right. And I think that's also like why I think you find so much therapy and self-care in yoga, is because you get to slow down. You get to allow yourself to just kind of be. And not so much do. Right. And especially with like little energy, like what you mentioned, you can just be in that state. Yeah, and I also believe that like everything has its own frequency, right? And it's you've heard this, like you vibrate higher, right? And these activities really help you have that higher vibration, right? And you know what? I think a lot of people kind of misconstrue self-care as being, you have to be like ecstatic. I find self-care actually reaching peace, because I feel like being extremely happy or extremely angry, those are like super duper extremes. But like I think people in general just need to find that peace first, and then because from there, like that's where you are, that's where you're neutral, and then from there you kind of like sway from right to left, from being extremely happy to like maybe extremely moody, right? You know what I mean? So I feel that's what self-care does for me. It brings me back to that neutral state. Correct. I think it's so important that people kind of need to find that thing or those things that kind of like help bring them back. Right. To I like what you said. State, I like it. Another way of self-care for me is actually doing things
this is weird. I mean, it may sound weird. Just doing things in advance, like doing like something my future me will thank my past me for. Like, for example, doing the dishes ahead of time. And then you know what? Then the Carmela from the future is like, damn, Carmela from the past, like
good thing that you did this.
Yeah, you saved my ass, you know? So I do find like doing chores or doing errands ahead of time does provide that self-care because you don't stress about it later on. So I do find a lot of therapy when the future me is just kind of like looks back and is like, wow, I can't believe we did that.
Like some of us would really think that like you are just so stressed about all these things. You can just relax and just not do it now. Right. But I remember we had a conversation about the dishes, you and me, right? And I would totally agree with you that I wouldn't wait for that to last longer in the sink.
It's like stacked up just
right? I don't. And when let's just say, okay, you let it be sitting there for like a few hours. Right. You can attract a lot of cockroaches, bugs, and you can smell it, right? Yeah. So it's not really it's not healthy.
When you get there, you're like, it's so big.
It's already gross too. It's already gross. Because if there's oil, there's sauces, and it's mixed in there. Right. So I would have to agree. That's really a good point.
Yeah, I do find that's my way of also like performing self-care is doing things in advance so that I don't freak about.
You have to worry about it.
Yeah, and that worry is obviously stress is obviously the total opposite of like what self-care is supposed to do. So that's why I kind of like to do things in advance, just so like for example, like with this podcast, like we did so much preparation, so we're not as stressed, you know. So we're not. Yes, that's true. You know, so we're not like so stress. I mean, obviously there's some small factors here and there, but we're not as like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, in our heads like worrying about
we're
things.
Not all over the place, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Thinking about a lot of things.
Another way I like to, you know, express like, you know, give myself some self-care is through skincare routine. I feel like
you have a very wonderful skin.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. This girl is just complimenting me left and right. But I do find a lot of therapy like with a, you know, with a good skincare routine. I know that's a little bit more materialistic, but for me, I don't know, like you gotta nourish yourself to flourish. And I feel like skincare is just like one of those ways for me to kind of like, you know, do that for myself or to express myself, is that when I do skincare, I know for a fact, like, oh my gosh, like, because this is my barrier. This is what's keeping me safe from everything from the external world. So I do like to practice, you know, a pretty rigorous skincare routine.
But imagine if somebody has a yucky skin, do you think they're healthy? No.
Right, exactly. Right? You know, so it does play a role. It does play a role. You know, I mean, you know, like proper skincare, even just as simple as like hydrating, like, you know, making sure you are getting that, you know, sufficient amount of water, just to make sure that, you know, you're giving your skin that extra barrier, that extra, you know, hydration and protection, you know. So I do find like skincare routine to be quite therapeutic for me.
All right. To add up to my list, food.
Oh yes, food therapy. It's a thing, and don't be ashamed about it.
Well, you know, every now and then you still have those cravings for like those yummy food. I don't want to say that those are like not healthy foods. You should like put it in your head that those are yummy food. Yeah. Right?
In moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah, in moderation. Correct? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it does affect your emotion, whatever you eat, right? Also, it does affect your performance on a daily basis.
Right.
That's really true. So also, let's say if you eat something that your body doesn't really like, what would you get out of it?
Right.
Your skin looks dry. Let's say your bowel movement is not really nice. Good, like, so literally, so that's why part of self-care is really what we eat, what you eat.
Let's talk a little bit more, since we're talking about like food and like eating, you know, the food that makes us happy. You know, I feel like a lot, because, you know, with what we see on social media, we see a lot of like influencers, models, you know, a lot of like really, like I guess attractive people who have like a certain figure. And I feel like a lot of people kind of tend to stay away from the food that they like because they're so heavily influenced by like social media or that they have to look like a certain figure. And I feel like that should kind of already, that kind of mentality should stop. Like you need, if this food, like for example, this chocolate makes you happy, are you really gonna like make yourself suffer and be like, oh, because this person looks like this, she doesn't eat chocolate, and therefore I shouldn't? No, I feel like that.
That's a good point.
Right. I think, a lot for me, another way of like, to express self-care is like to stay away from social media. Yes, I can say that I'm confident, right? I can say that I'm confident. I can say that I'm beautiful, but insecurities will pop up. And when you go, especially like on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, any social media platform, it will come.
Well, because you compare yourself to these people that you see online.
Right.
Right. And it's not really
It's overloaded.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's okay that you look up to these people and you follow whatever they do, whatever they're doing, whatever they're trying to share to you, but you know better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
you know better. It's your
better,
body, right?
Yeah.
You can probably try like what they're suggesting.
Right.
And if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to really follow everything.
I totally agree. I think just because there's like an overload of like information out there on social media, it can kind of like cloud people's like, own personal judgment, right? Yeah. Like they kind of like, okay, yeah, they can look up to that person, but sometimes I feel like in the process, you're kind of like, oh, be that person, how to be that person, rather than just being like, oh no, but that's not me.
It should be just you, not be them.
I like that. Another way for me to express self-care is actually tennis.
Oh yeah, Carmela is really good at tennis. I admire her.
This girl with her compliments. Stop it.
Because it is true.
I brought Myrtle to the tennis court, and she was killing it. It was so much fun playing with her.
I loved it already.
Yeah.
Right? She's been playing tennis for a long time. Carmela, how long have you been playing?
Ever since I was 14.
See,
so
I just started playing tennis.
But you've been doing amazing. And the reason why I find a lot of self-care in tennis is, yes, of course you're playing, your endorphins are high, you're sweating and things like that. But it's because, like, again, going back to kind of like my example earlier about scuba diving, like where you're hyper focused on one thing, I'm hyper focused on the ball. Like nothing else around me matters. You know what I mean? I feel like when you find that activity where you can just focus on that one thing you need to do, it's actually quite therapeutic. Like for me, it's like focus on the ball and just put it over on the other side. It could be as simple as that. So I feel like when you find activities like where it's just like you gotta just focus on something and let everything else kind of fade for a moment, it helps a lot, actually.
I agree.
Yeah.
I cannot agree more. Me also, if I would be surrounded with happy people.
You're such a good vibe person.
Do I give that vibe?
Yeah. With me, you do. Like, you're such a good vibe person. Like, whenever like I see your Instagram stories, it's always just like super duper positive. It's always like uplifting, So I like it. I mean, and even like when I'm around you, you bring that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Energy.
So if you are surrounding yourself with happy people, positive people, then you would get that also. Yeah. Right?
It kind of reflects back.
Exactly. That's the right words. Reflects back, because whatever they do, you can kind of like mirror, right? Yeah, so totally. It's better to mirror positive things than mirror negativity.
You're right, exactly. And I think it's so important, selecting that, that inner circle that you have and surrounding yourself with, the people who that you're vibing with, right? Saying yes, and here's the thing, it's okay to say no to certain people, to certain situations. If if it's not good for you or if it's not elevating you, you have the permission to say, like, you very much have the permission and the power to say no and say yes to the people who do like care about you. Like when you approached me, I was like, about Maarte and everything. I was just like, oh my gosh, like yes to you because you're the type of person who wants to grow. You're that type of person who wants to elevate, and you bring that energy. Right. You know what I mean? So that's why it's like so important to be to be Maarte, to be selective with the people. It is a very Maarte thing.
It's not bad to say no, because it's taking good care of yourself.
Yeah, it's putting you first.
May it be like a friend that you've been with for a long time, and then all of a sudden you just drifted apart. It's just you're not vibing anymore. Yeah. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. You can always love them from afar. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's self-care. Like if you know that person or that that situation is pulling you down, it's okay to be like, hey, this is for me to take care of myself. This is for me to better myself. You distance yourself and everything. So I think it's so I really like how you brought that up. And for me, lastly, recently I just
started, my Procreate journey. I've started sketching and everything. Yeah. Oh my goodness. This activity has been bringing out, it's kind of like a double-edged sword because I love it so much, but this is bringing out my inner perfectionist. Oh my goodness. Like yesterday, I spent 6 hours on a cherry. And trying to perfect it. So I love how it's giving me that time for myself, but it's also bringing out that perfectionist side.
I don't think it's bad.
I know it's not bad. I know it's great, but obviously
it is so great.
It's so great. But in my head, it's just like, it's not quite there yet. So I think it's actually been really helpful for me to also kind of manage that perfectionist side. Like that was me being overly Maarte with myself.
I think it's okay because it challenges you to do better.
Right? Exactly.
I love it.
I love how it does that. And you know what? Like when I posted on Instagram the other day my apple. And I'm doing fruits.
It's so cute. The cherries.
I started with apples. Now I moved on to cherries. I've leveled up. So I remember when I did my apple and I saw the teachers and I saw her apple and I was just like, oh my gosh, it looks like mine looks good, but it doesn't look anything like hers. But when I had the courage to post it on Facebook and be like, hey guys, this is my apple. And I looked at it along the other like students that I was with and like, it's
so great.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my goodness, like, but it doesn't look the same, but it belongs. You know what I mean? Everyone's apple looked a little bit different. Yeah. Everyone had like a little bit of a different style. I had my own style. So I was like, oh my goodness, I can like release that. Yes, that perfectionist side paid off in the sense that like, okay, it's how I wanted it to look. But at the same time, it's also teaching me, what Procreate has been teaching me is like, okay, now you can also tame that perfectionist side. And that has been helping me a lot. Okay. Yeah, it's been really, really cool. It's bringing out that side.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's bringing out that side in me. Like, okay, this is my perfectionist side, which is okay. It's okay to have those standards, but let's also try to manage it. Mm-hmm. It's been really cool, actually. Yeah.
I'm happy for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been quite a journey. I'm so excited to post more fruits.
Yeah, we're gonna talk more about you.
Yeah,
sketching.
I know. We're gonna talk about me designing prints for our bikini line. Oh. Hey, wing wing. Anything else? Like how else do you practice self-care?
How else? Like just being happy, I guess, choosing to be happy every day.
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Like that's a good topic. Can you choose to be happy?
Okay. So this is a thing, right? That I've learned.
Tell me the Chika.
The Chika is, okay, we have emotions. There are like situation that would make us feel sad. Mm-hmm. But you can always choose to feel better than that. You can, let's just say.
Okay.
COVID is happening. This pandemic, there's a lot of people getting sick. All right. Sure. I am not saying like be grand, be happy, celebrate. No. It is like feeling better compared to like what you feel.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm sad right now, but I can help myself push a little bit better.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You just feel better now.
Right. Exactly. I love that. I love how you actually also acknowledge the feeling. Okay, I'm not feeling so good, but how can I raise that? How can I move forward from it? I don't want to say push it because you can't push.
You can't.
Yeah, but how can I move forward from this? And I think that's actually also self-care. Sometimes you got to do the hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do the hard thing. You got to go through that wave. You got to go through that, maybe that downfall to get back up.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a really also a really cool way to practice self-care.
It's just one decision away.
Yeah.
Right? I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right? But you just have to think that you can try. You can try. Right?
Yeah.
Try.
That's so good. I love that. And I think with all that being said, I hope these tips have helped you guys. These are from our own personal experiences. Just to also let you know that self-care is not a one size fits all. Like what works for us, what works for Mirtle may not work for you, and what, and things like that. What Mirtle, some of the things that you mentioned, like for example, you like being around the happy people, you like to surround, you are a bit of an extrovert. So you do like being with people. I'm more introverted. I find a lot more peace. Like when I'm like one-on-one with you. And I find that like very therapeutic to me. Like when I'm just with that one person who I can trust. So what may work for us may not work for you. And that's something that we had to explore.
Right. Yeah. And don't be afraid to try. And if it works for you, good. If it not, you can move on to another one.
Yeah. And with all that being said, I am Carmela.
And this is Mirtle.
And thanks for tuning into
the Maarte Life Podcast.